Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest. UNH women's hockey player Brianna Brooks joins the show today. Brianna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and how's everything going?
Thank you for having me. Everything's good.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and obviously the season ended a few months ago. What have you been up to since the season ended?
Yeah, so we were able to go home for a bit because we hadn't been home all season. So our coach said that we could go home and stay home if we wanted to. So I went home for a couple weeks, and then I ended up coming back because I live in Ontario and home's not that fun right now because they're in lockdown. So I came back, and we've just been doing spring lift and having fun and hanging out and enjoying the nice weather.
Well, that's good to hear. And so, what are your off-season plans, and what do you hope to work on regarding your game?
I'm hoping to work. I'm hoping to get a lot stronger in the gym, and probably my defensive game mostly needs the most work, which I'm gonna hopefully do all summer if I'm able to skate due to COVID restrictions at home. But yeah.
Yeah, how are you going to deal with some of the challenges? Because I know in different areas in Canada, there's a lot of COVID restrictions. It's hard to get into a gym or find ice time. So how are you going to deal with some of those challenges? Because I know you probably dealt with them last year as well.
Yeah, so I usually go to a gym every year, but this year my family decided we'd make our own gym. So we actually just got our basement finished, and we have bought all the gym equipment possible and made basically our at-home gym. And so I get programs sent to me from my trainer here. So I'll probably just follow that all summer. And then skating, like hopefully I have a private skills coach. So hopefully I'll be able to get some ice and get on the ice with him if obviously like COVID allows me to.
Well, that's good to hear. Now I want to transition a little bit and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and work all the way up to where you are now with UNH. So you're from Whitby, Ontario. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
So growing up in Whitby was amazing, especially like with sports and stuff. Like every kid I knew played sports, like hockey and lacrosse were a big thing in Whitby. So when I was like 3, my older sister was 5 and she was playing hockey, and I was so jealous. So my mom like begged the person to let me play hockey with her, and I was so young. So they were like no at first, but then they ended up getting me on her team. So I couldn't even skate. Like I just started playing hockey right away. And then and then I played minor hockey in Whitby growing up, and then I moved to Durham West in Ajax. I'm not sure if you know where that is, but I moved there, played there for a bit, and then I played junior actually in Durham West as well. And then from there, I came to UNH, and I got scouted throughout my Durham West years, and then came to UNH, and I love it.
Yeah, and growing up, who was your favorite player?
Growing up, I'd have to say Cassie Campbell. I'm
Hmm.
not sure why, because she was so much older, like now. But when I was like very young, like I was always like, oh my gosh, like she's so cool. She was in the Olympics at the time. So I'd have to say Cassie Campbell.
Now, how did you get the opportunity to play for Durham West?
So I ended up changing organizations. I don't know, like I just kind of chose to move, and I ended up like making their junior team and like talked to the coach originally who was like there. So I ended up playing as a minor my first year of junior. And yeah, I just kind of chose to go there.
Yeah, and you got to play with a lot of cool teammates when you were at Durham. Your teammate at UNH, Siobhan Truder, she played for Durham West with yourself. You also got to play with Penn State forward Julie Goff. Talk about playing with those players and how did that help your hockey development coming into college?
Oh, it was unreal. Like my last couple years of junior, like I played with some of the best players ever who are all like on D1 scholarships right now. And they became like my best friends. So it was honestly an unreal experience. Like looking back, like I think I took it for granted a bit because everyone's like doing so well and like are at like such a high level of hockey now. And I was like, oh, like we were all on one team back then. Like that was so cool. Like anyways, it was just so fun.
Hmm. And talk about a little bit more about your experience in the PWHL and what was your favorite memory you've ever had with Durham West?
PW the PWHL was honestly like the best league ever. Like it was like there was a big jump from midget to like the PW. So it was a lot. It was like a lot better hockey, which is like probably my favorite part. But my my so with Durham West, the memory I have is I went to the SO Cup, so we won provincials in midget, and we went to the SO Cup, and we went to Morden, Manitoba, and played there. So that was probably my biggest memory with Durham West. But for junior, I don't know, honestly, like when I think back, I just think of like the locker room, like before every game, and like how much fun we had. So I think that'd be like my
Mhm.
biggest memory from there.
Yeah, and you were also the captain of that Durham West team. What type of leadership did you want to bring in? Were you more of a vocal or lead by example type of player?
I feel like I was both vocal and lead by example. Like I wanted to show, like especially the younger girls on my team, that like this is how hard you have to work if you want to like play at the next level, and if we want to win every game, like you can't let up for a game. You can't get down on yourself if you like miss a shift or something. So I definitely wanted to lead by example there. I would definitely say I was vocal too, because I always tried to like encourage everyone to be their best selves too, because everyone goes through ups and downs in hockey, and like I myself knew that. So I couldn't imagine like the younger girls being like scared of like the older girls, because like my first year of junior, I was that young, and I had like great role models, fortunately, to look up to my first year. So I just tried to like be like that.
Now, how did your experience with Durham West help prepare you for college hockey with UNH?
Oh, I think it prepared me like as much as it could have. Like we did similar stuff. Like when I am lifting here, I'm like, oh, like I did that in junior, so I'm like familiar with it, like some of the exercises and stuff. So I feel like in that aspect, like it's helped me a lot for sure.
Now, you also got to play for Team Ontario Red. Talk about playing, representing your province, and getting to be a part of that tournament because that seems really fun.
Yeah, that was like the best experience of my life. I met some of my best friends there, and one of my roommate now, sorry, was my roommate actually at the at Team Ontario. So like I met some of my best friends. It was honestly an unreal experience because I was playing with the best players in Ontario, and I was like so fortunate to be like a part of that group. So it was an unreal experience. Like we had so much fun.
Now, as an American, I was kind of confused on this. So, what's the difference between Team Ontario Red versus Team Ontario Blue?
So basically, like because Ontario is so big, they put in two teams. So basically, like they made like a first, I wouldn't say first team, but they made like a team red, and then they make like another team, like to kind of like give like other girls like a chance, like the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like like typically they say the red team's supposed to be better than the blue team, which like we were that year too, but like in the past, like the blue team has beat the red team. But yeah, it's basically just two teams from Ontario that get put in because Ontario is such a big province.
Is Ontario the only province that gets to have a blue and red team, or does like no Quebec get to have like one or two teams, or British Columbia?
No, Ontario is the only one. Ontario is the only one that ever has. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know if maybe Quebec's allowed to, but maybe they're like, no, like we
Hmm.
only have enough players to have one good team. Like with Ontario, like there's so many good players that they're like, yeah, like we'll have two good teams there, which is usually true.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just where do you keep the gold medal now? And how do you ever talk? Do you ever like show it off to any of your friends?
Not really. Like I keep it's at home actually, hanging up on my curtains. So I just really keep it there, and it's just a nice reminder that I worked hard for that, and that was one of the best experiences of my life.
Now let's talk a little bit about your recruitment process. What was that like, and what made you want to go to UNH?
So my recruitment process, I was pretty young. I was playing midget. I would have been in ninth grade. Um, yeah, so it was like every tournament really, there was always scouts, like from a young age, like scouts kept coming and kept looking at you, and we would either reach out to some scouts, and like if it was a school we're interested, we'd be like, oh, I'm playing here, like come watch me, or they would like reach out to our coaches and be like, oh, I'm looking at your player, and like our coach will tell us, and they'll be like, okay, like UNH is watching you today, or you know what I mean. So then basically I remember one tournament UNH like reached out to my coaches and they're like, yeah, like we're interested in her. So I ended up doing like a huge tour with Siobhan actually, and I toured like 10 schools in like a couple days, and UNH was one of them. And at that point I had no idea what UNH was, and then I came here and I loved it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is definitely one of my top schools, like blah blah blah. And then so I started talking to them, and yeah, I just honestly, like my first time here, I knew I was like, I just love this campus. And when I was in grade 9, like nothing else mattered. It was just oh, this campus is beautiful. I could see myself here. So that's like kind of what the mindset was going into like my tours. And that was like my first reaction of UNH. So that's why I chose it.
Now, how do you handle the nerves of knowing that college scouts are watching you play? Because if I were in that situation, I wouldn't want to know because I feel like the nerves would get the best of me.
Yeah, most times I'm like, I don't want to know. I'm like, don't tell me if they're here. I'm just going to assume that there's obviously going to be someone always watching. So honestly, like I even told my coaches, I was like, yeah, just don't tell me because I don't want to know. And even if they do tell me, I just kind of pretend like they're not there. Like just do what I would do if they weren't there. Just have fun.
Now, talking to other college hockey freshmen, what's the biggest adjustment you had to make? Because, like I said before, talking to other college hockey freshmen, they said it's kind of the mental side of the game since you have to make a lot quicker decisions, or it's just the speed of the game since the players are a lot faster than the players in juniors.
Yeah, I think it's like honestly both mental and physical about the speed. Like I have to think faster and I have to skate faster. Like both of like that was definitely the biggest challenge, like hockey wise for sure.
Now, what was the biggest improvement you've made to your game this year?
Biggest improvement this year. Probably my speed for sure. Like I found at the beginning of the year, I was like, well, so I came into the year with a torn ACL, so I was still kind of recovering from that. And then when I like got going, I was like, oh, like my knee's fine. So I felt like I kind of had to get back into like speed and like quick feet and stuff like that. So I would say like that was my biggest improvement at the end.
Yeah, and how do you try to get through the torn ACL process? Because that's one of the longest recoveries for any injury an athlete can have. It's like almost a year and a half. How'd you like mentally deal with that recovery and talk about the recovery process and getting back on the ice with UNH?
Yeah, so it happened. I got surgery last February, so it was like the beginning of COVID. So I was very fortunate, like because I was essential, I was able to go to physio every day. So I did. I went to physio and rehab my knee every day, and then I slowly like got back onto the ice. And honestly, like when I came back to UNH, I was pretty much okay. Like I had to start when I first came here in August. I started rehab with my trainer here, and I was doing that every day on top of like lifts and skating, so it was kind of tough like physically, like I was so tired all the time. But honestly, like it got better when I first started skating originally here. I was like, oh, like this is a little tough, but then I got used to it. Like it honestly, it was a good thing that our season started in November because it definitely benefited me because I was at my best like by November at that point because it was almost like 10 months or something like that, so I was fine.
Now, Whittemore Center is one of the biggest ice surfaces in college hockey. How'd you adjust to the bigger ice surface, especially since you might go against a team that has a much smaller ice surface on the road on a Friday or Saturday?
So my home ice in junior was almost as big. So I love like the big ice. So I like don't have a problem with that. Like that's like I love playing at home. It's my favorite. It's definitely like my favorite ice rink to play at. When traveling though, like it is a little bit like, oh, it's kind of small. We don't have enough room. But honestly, it almost makes it easier. Like we practice in such a big ice rink that when we go to the small ice rinks, like we're like not as tired and it doesn't take like as much energy. So like I feel like we have a benefit.
Now, let's start off talking about this past season. So, your team had some success throughout the regular season. You beat the number 8 team in the country in Boston University, and then you also beat Northeastern in a shootout. How important were those type of wins heading into the Hockey East playoffs?
Oh, those wins were huge because it gave us confidence going into like playing Northeastern, let's say, in the playoffs. Like we were like we beat them before, like why can't we beat them again? Type thing.
Yeah, and I feel like people don't give you enough credit for how good that BU win was in the beginning of the year because they're a really good team. And I was kind of surprised that they didn't make it farther in the Hockey East tournament than they actually did. So just talk about getting that win. I don't know if you played in that game because it was in the beginning of the season, but just talk about how important that one was.
I did play that game and it was honestly like it was crazy to me that I was like, because I BU like stereotypically is supposed to be really good, so I was like, oh, like we're just as good type thing. Like that was like my mindset. Like playing our first couple games, I was like, we're just as good. Like we can keep up with them. Like we can beat any team. Like that was kind of my mindset, and I feel like it gave my whole team confidence going into the whole season.
Now let's talk about the Hockey East playoffs that you're just in. What was it like being Holy Cross on home ice? And just talk about the positive momentum that game brought you guys heading into Northeastern the following weekend.
Yeah, beating Holy Cross was huge. Like, we were so pumped before that game, and I think that's honestly why we won. Like, we were all so happy, like, so energetic in the locker room and in warm up. So going into that game, I felt like we were all pretty confident, and we all like wanted to have fun. Like, every single person on that team wanted to score a goal. So like, I feel like when we go into a game like that, like, that's like why we do well.
Yeah, what was the offensive game plan throughout that game? Because I felt like you guys scored those 2 quick goals in the first period, and then Holy, you kind of defensively locked them out of their zone entries. So I guess, like, what was the offensive game plan, and was that the goal was trying to get 2 early goals and then kinda just defensively lock down throughout the rest of the game?
Yeah, the offensive game plan was honestly score early, like just shut them down, tell them that they're losing this game early on, and then we'll like play defensive near the end.
Now, yeah, and talk about your zone entries, because that's what impressed me the most throughout watching that game was just how you guys clearly entered the zone in a great way and then created offensive chances from that and created odd man rushes from that too. Because that was watching the game, that was the coolest part of the best part of your game plan, in my opinion.
Yeah, so actually like we've been working on that. We like before that game, we worked on that a lot in practice. Like we would do it like a bunch of times each with like our line specifically. So I feel like my line like in particular like we like knew what we wanted to do. And we went into that game, we're like we practiced this, like it was working in practice, we were having fun in practice, so we're like let's do it in the game.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that was just for me. It was really impressive, and then the puck battles as well. How do you like prepare for going against those board battles and puck battles throughout the games, especially a team like Holy Cross, who they're really successful at that?
Yeah, honestly, I just go in with the mindset like I'm coming out with the puck, I'm gonna do whatever I can to come out with the puck and not get a penalty.
Now, you then played Northeastern in the following weekend. Talk about that game, and what do you think you could have done better to win that game? Because in my opinion, I felt like the score didn't really reflect of how close that game actually was.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, I think we were all positive and we're like, we can do this. We know we can do this. Like, let's just do it. But then I feel like second period, end of second period, but as soon as they started scoring, like we got down on ourselves and we were just like, whatever. Like, obviously they're gonna beat us. Like they're the number one team type thing. Which I think like that negative attitude brought us down and was like no one like we just didn't start we stopped caring and they started scoring which but I agree like that game felt like a 1-0 game mostly the whole time.
Now, did you get to watch Northeastern in the national tournament this year?
I didn't know.
I just want to get your reaction though on just them winning the whole thing and just how it shows how good of a conference Hockey East is.
Yeah, honestly like my reaction is just like yeah, like they deserve to win, they had a good season. Didn't expect anything less honestly.
Now, what was it like to play this year without any fans, and how did you adjust to that?
Honestly, like I feel like as a freshman, I don't really know what it was like to have many fans there, so I wasn't like it didn't. I feel like it doesn't really affect me honestly, but I feel like that like there wasn't that like we're playing to win something was there all year. Like I feel like it was a bit like oh, it's just another fun game because maybe no one was there. I feel like that definitely had an impact on it for sure.
Now, did those cardboard cutouts make a difference? Because talking to some players, they say they don't really notice them, and then other players say it does make a difference because it feels like there's actually fans in the stands. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, like I would say I don't really notice them a lot. Like I feel like it does fill the rink though. Like it didn't feel like just like an empty arena, but I would say like I don't really notice them.
Now, how excited are you for fans next year? Because UNH has one of the best student sections in the country, and obviously Whittemore Center is such a big arena. So if they pack the house, it's such a great atmosphere to be a part of, especially as a player.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm especially excited for like my family to come down and like my friends who don't play sports to like come watch because they think it's so cool. So I feel like that will be fun when they can do that.
Now, you also had to adjust to a lot of schedule changes throughout the season. How did you mentally stay prepared for all the schedule changes that happened? And what was the key for maintaining flexibility? Because in Hockey East, you didn't even know who you were going to play until the Tuesday before the weekend.
Yeah, my mindset was just don't expect anything. Don't I didn't even look at who I played that weekend until my coach would tell us like Thursday or Friday or Wednesday or whatever. Whenever we like found out and it was for sure. So I feel like that like helped because I wasn't like oh I'm so excited to play them like 2 weeks in advance. I was just kind of like see like day by day who are we gonna play.
Hmm. And how'd you prepare for opponents this year, having little time to know who they actually were throughout the season?
We would do video the day of the game or the day before of like their team plays or like us playing them. So I feel like that like helped a lot because it kind of like got us prepared. Like, okay, we're playing Holy Cross today. We're playing Northeastern. Like, this is what they do. This is how we're gonna defend it.
Now, talk about the upperclassmen and just how they helped your freshman class transition into college hockey because you guys had one of the biggest freshman classes heading in to the team this year.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give them a lot of credit because we were a pretty big class, and I think we're a handful too. Like we're all a little crazy, so I think it was a lot for them, but they handled it well. Like they always made us feel welcome. Like they introduced us to everything and taught us everything really well, I think.
Now, 3-on-3 overtime was also introduced to college hockey this year. What was that like for yourself, having more space on the ice and having more offensive opportunities to score goals?
Yeah. Wait, what did you say at the beginning? Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, 3-on-3 overtime was introduced to college hockey this year. What was that like for yourself, just having more space on the ice and having more offensive opportunities to score goals?
Oh, I love 3-on-3. Like I feel like that was fun. Like I feel like sometimes it doesn't really reflect on each team because it's like one player can go end to end and do it on themselves. So it's basically like who has the best 3-on-3 strategies. But yeah, I think it was good. Like I like 3-on-3. Like it was fun.
Yeah, the reason why I like 3-on-3 is one, because it showcases the skill of a lot of the best college hockey players in the country, which I think is important to help grow the game. But another reason is it eliminates ties. And I don't know about yourself, but I absolutely hate ties. So I guess that was one aspect of college hockey that I did not miss from last year.
Yeah, I hate ties too.
Mhm.
Like I totally agree. I want a winner at the end of it.
Yeah, I'd much rather lose than have a tie. That's how much I hate it, honestly. Now, how'd you like defensively? What's your mindset defensively in 3-on-3 overtime? Because talking to other players, they say if you're not defensively minded, it can cause an odd man rush for the other team because you can make one little defensive mistake.
Yeah, so my mindset in 3-on-3 is get the puck and don't lose it. Like puck possession the whole time because then you can play defensively with it, but you can also like if you want to go offensively, like you can. So that's really what I think. Like just keep the puck and pass it to your teammates. And if you're not gonna go score, then just keep it still. Like don't give it to them to go have that chance.
So now I'm going to ask you about some of the teammates you get to play with on a daily basis. The first teammate I want to ask you about is Julia Scammell. Just talk about the leadership that she brings to your team and just how good of a player she is, and just about what she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice.
Yeah, she's an amazing teammate. She's a little quieter, but she's always fun in the locker room and she always makes everyone feel welcome. She's a great player though too. She's always working hard in practice and we can see it in the game too.
You also get to play with Lindsay Duma and just talk about the leadership that she brings and just how good of a player she is and just what she's like as a teammate, both on and off the ice.
Yeah, Lindsay's really funny. Off the ice, she's definitely a character. So we all enjoy her presence. And she's honestly one of the hardest working players I've ever played with, I think. She grinds in the weight room, like practice, like, and we can see it in a game. Like, she plays so hard. And she's like our best penalty killer by far. So yeah, she's really fun to play with.
Now, the final teammate I want to ask you about is Avery Myers. She's like a goal scoring machine. Just talk about her as a teammate, both on and off the ice as well.
Yeah, she's a good teammate. Off the ice, she's fun. Well, we become friends, which is nice. And on the ice, yeah, she works hard. She can score. She can place the puck at basically anywhere. So it's good.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment of the podcast, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first question to you is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve would have to be slow walkers or drivers.
I agree
I
with you on that.
hate slow walkers and drivers, and I just get makes me mad. Like just move out of the way.
Well, luckily you're in New England, and there's not a lot of slow drivers. To be honest, it's more people out of control on the lanes. That's mostly what I have to deal with. But I do agree with you. If someone's going like under 65 miles per hour on the middle lane, it just bothers me because I need to get someplace on the highway.
Like move or
hmm
go faster.
What is your favorite class you take at UNH?
My favorite class was probably my exercise science class. It was like health and nutrition. I found it just like really easy, and it was one of the classes I had in person. So it was like fun because we got to do labs and stuff, which like every other class was online. So I'd have to start an exercise science class.
How do you deal with how do you balance, I guess, the academic aspect of being a student athlete and the hockey side of being a student athlete? Because being in college myself, it's hard just to balance the academic side. But I feel like if you add hockey on top of it during the middle of a season, it seems like it can be kind of a grind.
Yeah, so honestly, this year everything being online definitely helped because we didn't have to like go to class. We could kind of like stay in bed all day and join class if we needed to, like on our phones or whatever. So I feel like that was like helpful within the season, especially. But yeah, it's a lot sometimes. Like we got to make sure our homework's done like before the weekend because like we could be on the road or we have a game and like no one wants to worry about homework when we have hockey. So like yeah, early in the week we try to just grind, get everything done, and then so we're good for the weekends.
How did you adjust to online school?
Online school wasn't that bad. I did like my like last year I did half of my second semester in online, so I was kind of like already used to it. So I feel like I was just kind of continuing that. So I don't think it's been that bad. It was easy to get used to, and like I think it's gonna be weird having to go in person now, honestly, because I'm so used to it.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about online school is the Zoom breakout rooms.
Yeah,
They're super awkward and brutal to be a part of. I don't know if you've had those experiences, but I can't stand them.
they are. They suck. And then I don't even know what we're supposed to talk about. No one talks, and then you just speak up. It's like, oh hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had one Zoom breakout room like a few weeks ago, and this one person like mic wasn't working, so like they had to type like all of their answers on the like chat function, and I had to talk. It was weird. I was like talking to myself while this person was just chatting everything. It was really awkward.
That's so weird.
So next question is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Jennifer Aniston, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Friends fan?
Oh yeah, Friends is my favorite show, so I would have to say her. I know she's older now, but young Jennifer Aniston, I would want her to be me.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your teammates. Well, who is the best trash talker on the team?
Trash talker. Mm, probably Siobhan Truder. She can come up with some chirps on the spot. Yeah,
Nice.
that's what I'd have to say.
Has she drawn any penalties this year from her trips or not really?
No.
Because I know some people are so good that it gets under other opponents' skin and they draw penalties because of it, and it's kind of like a aspect of the game that I feel like people don't realize.
Yeah, maybe Nicole Kelly has done that actually. She's pretty good at it too. They definitely fight for that one. I feel like Nicole has definitely done that before. Like that seems like something she's done.
Now, who is the cleanest teammate? Like, who keeps their locker room the cleanest?
I'd have to say my roommate Charlie. She's very clean. I myself are very clean. Like our room is spotless. Like if there's dirt or if our bed's not made, we're like what happened in here? So I definitely would have to say Charlie.
Is there other people on your team who are kind of the complete opposite of that?
Oh yeah, Siobhan, Truder, and Kyla. They live next door to us and they're a mess and everything is a mess that they own. So we're like, oh, we can't be over there.
Now, who is the funniest teammate?
Funniest teammate. I have to say Tamara Theoris or Lindsay Dumont. She's pretty funny too. Tamara's funny in her own way, but Lindsay's funny. Like she always makes like jokes and stuff. So maybe probably Lindsay actually.
Now, besides yourself, who has the best style on the team?
Style. Hmm. Hmm. Maybe maybe Charlie. Charlie Kettle. Yeah, she's
Nice.
good style.
Now, who is the top? Who is the best player you've ever played against so far in Hockey East?
Best player. Probably Elena Mueller.
Nice. She's so fun to watch. Like, I don't know how she pulls off some of the moves she does.
Like I find her fun to watch when I'm playing against her. I'm like, oh my god, she's so good. I'm not like, oh, I hate her. I'm just like, she's so good. Like I
Yeah.
wish I could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now back to some hockey questions now. My first question to you is, what should be done to help grow women's hockey in your opinion?
Um, I think that we could have some more contact, like some penalties in games. I get frustrated with because I'm like, that's so stupid. Like this is men's hockey that you wouldn't call that. So I feel like maybe a little bit looser on like that rule for sure.
Yeah, do you think hitting should be allowed in women's hockey, like full on body checking, or I don't know. I know people are like kind of controversial on that.
Yeah, I don't know about full on hitting, but like if yeah, I don't know about hitting, but just like a little bit more like yeah, we can hit, but we can't full on body check, you know? Like we can be aggressive without getting a penalty.
Yeah. I just think like I don't know, like I like personally I like when the refs swallow the whistle and let the players play. I
Yeah.
think it makes the game more fun to watch. But there's other refs that are like the complete opposite. They're super strict about it. And I feel like if you let hitting in women's hockey, it kind of eliminates that fine line between which
Yeah.
refs are strict and which refs aren't.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, obviously, the World Championships were canceled and rescheduled. They were supposed to play in Nova Scotia. I just want to get your reaction on that, and what was your mindset when that whole process was going on?
That was frustrating, especially because I know the U18 boys were playing, and some of my friends actually went there, or some people that I knew. So that was frustrating because I was like, the Olympic athletes can't like play their championship in Canada, but the U18 Canadian boys can play. You know what I mean? Like I was like, why are they canceling that for the girls? Like they have nothing ever, and the one thing they get during COVID, it's canceled.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree with you. Yeah, no, that was definitely it was tough to see, but I know they rescheduled it. Do they know where it's going to be? Because I know it's not going to be in Halifax anymore.
I have no idea. I just heard it was gonna be sometime in August or something. Yeah, I haven't really paid attention too much, honestly.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep a positive mindset on it though, because August there's not a lot of sports that are going on, so maybe it helps bring more viewers to women's hockey, just because that's the only thing that's happening in the sports world.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, what advice would you give a younger player trying to pursue a Division I college hockey scholarship?
Just work hard and do your best because honestly, like high school especially is stressful in general, and it was hard like managing like what school you're going to go to and all this stuff. So I think just be true to yourself, do what you want to do, don't let anyone else convince you otherwise.
Now, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give to any of your teammates, family members, or friends? I know I mentioned some of your teammates throughout the interview, but if there's any family member I forgot to mention or a friend I forgot to mention, feel free to shout them out now.
I would just shout out my whole team, honestly. Like they're amazing. We have a amazing atmosphere here at UNH, and every single person here like I love and adore and look up to, and we just have a great time. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Brianna. I really appreciate your time. I wish you all the best. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully I get to see you play in the future. And I know you guys have finals next week, so good luck on that.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me as well.